Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I am the Crypto Crow, and today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, Cardano, and crypto sentiment. I'm going to be real honest. This market cycle hasn't been easy for me, like it hasn't been easy for many of you, because I believe that with the tension of everything going on in the world, those of you that are political at all, trying to follow what's going on, the wars, the social rights, the censorship, AI, the way so much is happening, like bing, 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 bing. It's generated so much concern for so many that actually care. Like there are a lot of people out there that they see a tagline, a whatever, and that's what they believe, that's what they think, and they run with it, and they really don't know much else. And they're okay with that. And I understand it, because I wish I could be the same way. But as somebody who really just can't take potential truth at face value, I always have to dive deeper. And I have to look beyond what I'm being told. And I have to look beyond the narratives that are being projected by pretty much anyone to establish my own truth. And the same goes with Bitcoin's price and the crypto market overall. And, I'll go online and I'll read comments to my videos, and I'll read comments and things on Twitter. And there's definitely two worlds going on. You've got the bullish optimists, you've got the fudders who are trying to just basically tank anything that's not something that they hold. And it's a dark kind of thing, but a lot of it seems to be cultivated by what many believe to be an extension of this market cycle. In other words, they think that this market is somehow different than the rest, that the time frames have changed and that everything is different. And we're going to look at some charts, and I'm going to show you how that narrative is just not true. Everything is happening the same way it's happened every cycle previously. The only differences are the ETFs and how those ETFs have changed the psychology of many of us and what we expect to be happening now or next or in a particular time frame. And that's just not the case. We're going to go ahead and look at some of this. And this is a pulled back chart. This is a weekly chart right now. And what you're going to see here, you're going to see these blue vertical lines. These are all the halvings. Okay. These are the times when Bitcoin's mining yield was cut in half. And you'll notice that except for the, 2012 to 2016, which only took about 1,323 days. These are give or take a day. On a weekly chart, it's hard. You can't really pinpoint to the exact day. So everything in here is going to be within 3-4 days. But then from the 2016 to 2020, you're looking at 1,400 days roughly. And then from the 2020 to 2024, you're looking at approximately 1,435 days. And then if we move into where we're at now, from the 2024 all the way out to the 2028 potential halving, if we were to look at, a similar time frame, we might even extend this out a little bit and say, this could be, 1,400, and let's just call it 1,456 days. That would put us out at around April of 2028, right? Now, if we zoom in, we could just, I've looked at all of these. I've looked at previous cycles, and it's all the same. But if we look at the previous cycle from 2020 all the way up to the second peak, which I would say is the true peak. I know the Pi cycle top triggered in April for the first peak. All of this plays out exactly the way the NASDAQ 2007 did. You can look at it. You can do a bars pattern, and it overlays almost identically. It's pretty insane. I do believe that was the institution's way of waving and saying we're here at a time where they were all basically trying to FUD the markets and say we don't want anything to do with it, if you remember. But this period here, from the halving to where things really started to go on a significant uptick, was about 224 days. And from the halving to the peak was around 546 days. So now here we are, we get this bear market, we start entering a bull market, which we've basically been in roughly since 2023. And on this period of the charts, I'm going to zoom in so you can see it more clearly. This is what changed the psychology of everyone. This is approximately the period, basically going back September of 23 all the way, and I marked it all the way out to like January of 2024. But this period here is basically all of the articles, the headlines, everything, building up FOMO for what we all expected to happen, which was these spot Bitcoin ETFs. The first time after many attempts by like the Winklevoss twins and many others who have attempted to launch an ETF and they were denied by the SEC. Lo and behold, we all get news that BlackRock, who, everybody knows is like, basically, I kind of almost look at them as an extension of the government, whether they are or they're not. But they said, we're going to go after a spot ETF. And of course, everybody's like, this is done. This is a done deal. I think one time out of something like 400 something attempts that BlackRock ever get denied an ETF, or probably anything for that matter. So we knew that when BlackRock came to the table and said we're launching a spot Bitcoin ETF, that they were going to be the first to get approved. And then once they were approved, everybody would have the framework by which they were going to get theirs approved as well, which is exactly what happened. And during that period, we had all of this FOMO, all of this media hype pumping up Bitcoin's price from ultimately $25,000 to basically what I would consider a local peak for the period to about 49,000 before it started to settle. And I think this is about when, if I'm to remember correctly, this is when the actual ETF was approved and Bitcoin's price went down a little bit. It's kind of that buy the rumor, sell the news instance. And we saw that here, but it didn't take long before that corrected. A few weeks, and then boom, we were off to the races. BlackRock, their inflows start growing, the number of ETFs start coming in. And what did this do? This created a new all-time high before the next halving, before the halving of April of 2024. Well, that just completely wrecked a lot of the narratives associated with Bitcoin and its price action, as well as the overall crypto market for everyone, because this was a major, major thing that happened to change the very fabric, ultimately, of what happens in Bitcoin's price. Or was it? Because if you look now, since this high, we've created this channel where it's been slowly moving to the downside. But what's happened here? In this instance, that changes this downward channel as the hype and everything associated with these ETFs becomes more normalized in the news, the inflows and everything. It doesn't have everybody as pumped up or excited. It's just kind of a day-to-day business practice nowadays, right? We're used to this. So it's not driving the price up as much as many people thought it was. But what it did do is it changed the psychology, and it basically said, listen, this market is going to be different. We're going to moon. Everybody's going to get rich faster. Everything's going to change, but it didn't. What we've seen happen is this series of inflows that continues to this day has become more normalized in the overall crypto space. And we've only seen a small number of major blockchains or major cryptocurrencies really go up in volume and go up in price. And a lot of those are more centralized venture capitalist controlled projects that I believe are artificially inflated one way or another. Now, we can say artificially inflated, but that's not to say that, people aren't on exchanges doing coordinated buys to drive that price up to further establish a narrative for their project in a market that's otherwise less competitive, because nothing else has generally been moving, right? So then that leaves everybody thinking, well, this is going to the moon. This is going up really high. Why isn't everything else? It must be dead. And I'm not just talking about Cardano. Look it up. You can look up just about any chart. They're all following a very similar pattern, whether they're for the better or for the worse. And I don't even want to say worse. I just want to say what is typically a normal price action pattern without major mass adoption, with which nothing has yet for the most part. But we can see here around this 224 day mark from the halving, we started to break out of this channel and we're continuing to move. Now, a similar thing happened back here. This was the halving, about 224 days. Lo and behold, this is a period where we started to get a significant reversal towards our first peak. Now, from the halving to this peak, we're looking at 546 days. To the first peak of the market, which is where the pi cycle top triggered, this was only 336 days. So if we were to look at what was happening there, by the time we would get our first peak, if this were going to be a multiple peak market, which I don't necessarily think we're going to be this time, I think this is probably going to be more akin to the 2017 market, 2018. But if we look at where that's at, let's just say 300 and was it 336? I can't remember off the top of my head. 336. I feel like Rain Man. So 336 days after this halving puts us right about here. Okay. And this would potentially be the first peak of the cycle, which would basically put us around $98,000. I'm just eyeballing this. But that looks about fair by March of 2025. Now, what if it's not going to be a two-peak cycle? Well, then that would be the full bore of this market, which would put us somewhere around here, which I've calculated a million ways that I've done a million videos on. But this would put us in like an October of 2025 peak. So that basically tells us we've got about 350 days until the major peak of this cycle. 350 days, folks, that's almost a year from now. So what's going to happen? Are we going to get a two-peak cycle? Is it going to be one peak? Are we going to be one peak to conclude it all where we go down because they're playing everybody and they're making us think it's everything is over before we peak out again? You know, what is going to happen? We don't know. But what I do know is that the overall market is moving the same way it always has in the same time frames for the most part. And the only outlier that's changed our very perception of what's happening in the crypto space, leading us to believe that so much more should be happening now than is, and therefore so many of these projects are dying. All the FUD about Ethereum, all the FUD about Cardano, all of the FUD about some of the most innovative like layer one blockchains out there. And there's all this FUD associated with it because the prices of these assets aren't skyrocketing in the same way that some of these others are. But they're also not being manipulated in the same way. Their numbers, their on-chain metrics, it's all growing. It's all doing very, very well relative to the asset. But what you see is some of these projects that are pumping, that are more centrally controlled, their on-chain metrics are garbage. A lot of the data is being clouded or shrouded or manipulated in massive ways, or it's being omitted entirely from various reports. There is a false narrative that has been built and is continuing to be built in the crypto space that is misleading everyone. How are people dealing with that? Well, the reality is a lot of people are dealing with that by resorting towards meme coin trading, chasing that dragon, trying to get a rush, and they're trying to basically turn $100 into $1,000 in a day and $1,000 into $1 million in a month. And they're all basically playing that lottery, hoping to be able to achieve what they're being told should be possible right now that really actually isn't. And these narratives, these paid for narratives in a large degree are misleading so many people about the crypto space, and they're setting them up to be burned. Now, the question is, why? There's two potential reasons for this. Either one, the potential reason is because there's a lot of stuff brewing into the crypto space that's intentionally meant to burn a lot of people while the fat cats are filling their pockets at their expense in hopes of establishing let's just say an underlining ideology associated with the potential regulatory bodies that want to chomp on this market. The other side to that is just sheer profit. Just sheer profit, manipulating the newcomers, manipulating the greedy, manipulating the people that are out there that are so desperate for a change in their financial circumstance that they're willing to take just about any risk to do so. And when you do that in an echo chamber of people, I've just experimented with several things. I've experimented with the meme coin and what it's like to be in kind of a small meme coin community and how they work and how they operate. the wars between the two. One's trying to pump something, another group's trying to dump something. It is all basically one echo chamber working against another, depending on the asset, depending on the chain. And it's all very tribal. But in the grand scheme of all of it, a lot of people said, well, you launched this dog token. Why aren't you pumping it? Well, that was never meant to be a big deal. For me, it was an experiment and it was a tutorial. It was to show people, listen, if you want to create a fun token to say you've got your own, you could do it real easily here on this rocket.store or whatever it was. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the point is that it was never meant to be a real big project, but there was a small community that got behind it and loved it, and they thought it was cute, and they thought my dog was cute, and they thought all of that. So Dog Whistle basically just started shooting up. While at the same time, you had another group from another meme coin basically say, well, this is on our blockchain. We don't want this. We don't want this to get big because we don't want it to take away from what we're earning and ours. And that's just how easily these markets can be controlled, for better or for worse. The market cap for that token went up to 250, 60, 270,000 ADA in a matter of hours. And it went down about just as fast. And that's what I'm trying to explain to people. All of these meme coins operate the same way. Even NFTs, to a large extent, are basically the meme coins of yesterday. It's a digital asset. It's a picture. Unless there's significant real utility associated with the NFT, it's just another form of pet rock. And the value of that pet rock is determined based off of its marketing, the community supporting it, driving the prices up higher, and the overall secondary market associated with that asset, which continues to drive the price further. And so I'm basically trying to do this video to explain to people that we are not behind by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, we are far ahead of where we should be given this current time frame. And a lot of the psychology associated with cryptocurrency and where we're at in price, whether it's a layer 1, layer 2, any of this stuff, you're going to notice more significant pumps in this current market because there are a lot of people that are making money in different ways, and they're using those funds to pump up assets that really don't belong, that really should not be pumping in natural course of the way the markets are flowing. It's just not. In any way you look at it, you can just see that a lot of this stuff is artificial. And I do believe that a lot of that is it's either meant to burn people, which I do believe it will. And I'm not even talking about one particular chain. I'm talking about a coordinated effort, because there are coordinated groups across multiple chains that often work together to pump assets and dump them on the heads of the unknowing or the ignorant or the new or the greedy. And so if there's any message to be said about this, is moving forward, I would highly encourage anyone, and this isn't financial advice to me, this is just common sense advice in my own personal opinion. You really need to start getting back to focusing on the technology behind the assets, not all the fluff and the stuff and all of the flash and the trash that's meant to try and program you into thinking a particular way. Look at the assets that have actually achieved significant things, not just one gimmick, not just one thing. And I'm not just saying, in favor of Cardano. I believe Cardano is one of the most innovative blockchains ever created to date. I really do. And I think the proof is in the pudding. And I think, but it's just got finished. Since 2017, Cardano's just now met a point where it's actually considered to be more or less done. We're now in the Voltaire era where the governance systems are just forming up. We haven't even taken a first DREP vote yet, right? All this stuff is coming very, very soon. And so what has happened is that Cardano as a blockchain has finally laid down the entire framework by which it's going to operate in a very decentralized manner, empowering its holders and those that are involved in its ecosystem to further expand upon, build on, and regulate and monitor and everything. This major blockchain. We haven't even touched the treasury yet. We haven't done any of that stuff yet. It's just finally reached the point where it's concluded. Ethereum on the same token. It's been done for a long time. There are a lot of issues with Ethereum. The transaction fees are horrible, to say the least, and that's likely going to become the downfall of Ethereum. While projects like Cardano and even Sui, I've been looking at SUI a lot for a while now. I hold some SUI. And I understand that there's been this kind of transition from the Solana folks into SUI, and we're seeing those numbers change. I think it's a smart move for a lot of reasons, but I still don't fully understand every nuance about SUI either. I'm going to be diving into it at some point in the near future. But overall, what I'm trying to say is focus on the technology and the fundamentals that actually mean something for mass adoption. So many people need to let go of the idea that like a meme coin economy is going to drive a train forward, or having the most NFTs, the most valuable NFTs is somehow a statement or a testament to the quality of the blockchain they're built on. It's all nonsense. There are only a few major things that really matter when it comes to blockchain. Number one being the decentralized nature of it. How decentralized is that blockchain? If it's not truly decentralized, to me, in my opinion, it's garbage, because it goes completely against the very nature of what Bitcoin was created to achieve, and it takes the power further out of the public that are holding it and using it. Any blockchain that does that may have its use case, it may have its purpose, but it's not why we are all here. And it's not the technology that's meant to empower us as a community, a society, a state, a country, a city, whatever. That's what I'm trying to say. And so as we move further into this bull market cycle, I do believe we're going to see a pretty substantial transition out of all of these meme coins that have been robbing everybody. I think that we probably are going to get some form of pump back into some of the NFT markets of yesterday, because I do believe that the rarities, and that's a thing about NFTs. Some of the NFTs, they really do have really cool rarity differences and different variables that make them special. I just bought 8 or 10 of the Bitcoin cardinal omens, just because I think the art was really cool. I really like those. And so I picked some up, and it was the first time I've ever bought anything like that related to Bitcoin. And I'm like, a lot of these Bitcoin ordinal NFTs are probably going to become historical at some point. So I wanted to make sure I got my hands on some now, just in case, just to have. Some of them I'm going to turn into artwork in my office. Just because I like them that much. And that's why I got them. Not necessarily because I think I'm going to get rich from owning them, but because the tech behind it is cool, and it matters, and it means something. So a 22-minute video of just me talking. Hopefully this is enough to help some of you guys understand what's really going on in the space. I'm not about the bullshit. And I just call it as I see it. And there are often times where even myself, I get really down, and I'm like, I don't know what tomorrow holds. I don't know what's going to happen to me, my family. I don't know. I put so much of myself into the community, into my YouTube channel, into the cryptocurrency as a whole. And sometimes I have to go back and I have to look at the numbers, and I have to compare, and I have to take a deep dive into what's actually going on in the world, and what's going on in my space, in my community. And I have to remind myself that it's easy to get caught up in the rhetoric of the few and the loud on the internet, and start questioning yourself, and start questioning, is this market done? Is this market over? Did I miss something? Was this the peak? Are we just moving down here? And then I have to go back and look, and I'm like, oh God, I got to stay away from the stupid people on the internet. Till next time, crow your coins, and I'll see you again soon.